are about to discuss in this video, I think, is the most overlooked variable which has hindered and taken away all this steam away from silver's parabolic rise of $121 in January, which is the war. Now, this article shows several different data points where silver's sitting nice and pretty, like $93 on February 27th, but then the strait gets shut down, and after the escalation kind of boils over, silver's down to $77.40. Now, this has happened several times. I mean, look, the title of this article is Silver's Missing Crisis Trade: Why a War Keeps Pushing It Down. 2 Iran-linked crisis episodes this year sent safe haven money into the dollar instead of silver. And here is where the pattern keeps repeating. So they show the data points. They show that this is actually a thing and that the war has been a huge hindrance on silver's growth since $121 in January. Now, we can look at this a lot further, like, well, is the war going to start dying down? Because if we know the war is hurting silver prices and money's going into the dollar instead of silver, well, then when the war ends, that could be a huge catalyst for pushing silver forwards again, especially with all the other actual variables that silver has going for it, like the structural 6-year deficit and a lot others. Before we jump into this article, though, I do want to say, make sure you click subscribe because I post videos every single day, always keeping you in the loop with what silver's doing. Tomorrow, the markets open back up. It's at a crucial point at 58.90 right now, so you better subscribe because tomorrow I'll make another video explaining exactly what happened to prices and what we should do about it. And with silver at these dips, I think it is a beautiful time to purchase, lower our dollar per ounce average, and get in while we can, when the price is extremely affordable. So if you guys want to buy precious metals from a safe, reliable, respected place that has weekly specials, several different ways to pay, then hit up Miles Franklin. Just send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know Slayer sent you. That's Andy's company. They have a weekly price sheet, several ways to pay, a massive inventory. They will hook you up. Make sure you take advantage of these dips. And yeah, that's your plug. Thank me later. Anyways, let's jump into this. I will link this in the description. So they show the same setup twice, silver during 2 Hormuz closures. This is very interesting. So begins February 28th. Silver before is up to $93 on February 27th. $93 after the escalation. So the escalation begins February 28th. The day before, silver's 93. After, on March 18th, after everything, goes crazy and it settles down, silver's down to $77.40. That's a huge drop from almost peaking around 100, the psychological $100 price, to now 77. That's huge. And then we have another situation. June 17th, silver before 69.89. After the escalation on July 17th, a month later, it's down to 55.58. So you can see the pattern here. You can see the pattern. Silver fell during both 2026 Iran-linked crisis episodes, February, March, and July, because safe haven money flowed into the US dollar rather than into metals. Rising rate hike expectations from oil-driven inflation plus silver's roughly 57% industrial demand base pressured silver harder than gold in both episodes. The deciding factor is whether a crisis pushes interest rate expectations down, which is bullish for silver, as in 2020, or up, which is bearish, as in 2026, not whether fear is rising. So let's look at this. So the Strait of Hormuz is closed twice this year, and both times silver fell instead of rallying because the crisis bid went into US dollar rather than into metals. Silver trades at nearly $58.77 an ounce as I write this, which is still around the exact price. It's $58.90. So with the gold to silver ratio around 69 to 1. That ratio is simply the number of silver. We don't have to explain that. Hopefully you all know what the gold to silver ratio is. It's gold's price divided by silver's price, basically, or how many ounces of silver could you get with an ounce of gold. So silver's up roughly 50% from where it stood a year ago, and it still sits about 52% below the record of $121 set on January 29th. So just think of that. Even if you're looking at silver as like, man, it's so low right now, like the price is so bad. It was half of this last year. Silver's still up 50% of what it was last year at this time. So think about how fast it went from 30 to 121 in January. So remember, silver was half of the price it is now, and by January it was up to 121. So right now, let's just pretend that silver's at $30 right now. By January, silver's at 121. So right now it's 58. It's a much better chance for it to hit 121 in January. Not saying it will, but it's even more possible than last year because the price is already a lot higher. And back then, we didn't even break above the $50 level yet. Silver's already gone to these other highs, so it's even easier. So yeah, just try to put that in perspective, that silver's price is extremely high compared to even a year ago. So it would be easy to blame that gap on the war, and it would be wrong. The collapse from January's record was a margin story, not a geopolitical one. Exchange margin requirements on silver futures were raised, leverage positions were forced out, and the price fell hard through early February. Weeks before the first shot was fired, silver had recovered into the 90s by the end of that month. The war did something different and more instructive. So, and I think that's a good point, right? There were so many different things happening, but the war definitely took a lot of the spark out, of the potential of where it could have held its ground or held above 100 or held around 90 or held around 80. But you saw from 93 to 77 and then down to, what was it again? It was 93 to 77.40 and then 69 June 17th down to 55 July 17th. So you could just see that sharp decline. Late February, U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran shut the Strait of Hormuz and silver fell. In July, the strikes resumed, the strait closed again, and silver fell again. A single episode is an anomaly. Two is a pattern worth understanding because it tells you which conditions turn geopolitical fear into higher silver prices and which conditions do the opposite. The same setup twice. The war began on February 28th with coordinated U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian targets. Iran retaliated against shipping and tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz effectively halted. Roughly 1/5 of the world's oil passes through that waterway, so the closure went straight into energy prices. Crude climbed above 100 a barrel within about a week, first time since 2022. On paper, this was everything a precious metal investors told to expect. Shooting war, threatened oil supply, genuine inflation scare. Silver did jump like that. They're saying like that is on paper a perfect scenario for silver to go higher, right? Like on paper, that's what should have happened, but it did the opposite. So silver did jump briefly when markets opened, then it gave the gain back the same day and kept sliding. By mid-March, both gold and silver sat at 1-month lows, with silver near 77, falling despite the Iran war rather than because of it. The slide continued into the low 60s by late March. So why the crisis bid skipped silver? Both times the money looking for safety went into the US dollar rather than into metals. The dollar held near its strongest level in more than a year through July window, and a stronger dollar mechanically pressures silver because silver is priced in dollars and a more valuable dollar buys more of everything. The oil spike did the rest of the damage. Through a chain that is worth following slowly, higher energy prices lift expected inflation. Higher expected inflation pushes up expectations for interest rates. And in this case, it did more than that. It turned an expected series of Federal Reserve rate cuts into an argument about rate hikes. That is a direct headwind for silver, which pays no interest to whoever holds it. When investors believe cash and bonds will pay more, an asset yielding nothing looks worse by comparison. Gold fell in both episodes too. Silver just fell further because, one, it's a lot smaller of a market than gold is, like a lot smaller of a market. So it's going to, with money coming in and out, it's going to be more volatile. But also because it's an industrial metal, and that accounts for roughly 57% of total silver demand. So a shock to that raises the cost of energy, threatens growth, hits silver from two directions at once. And that's what I've mentioned. It can be a double-edged sword. It could be very good. It could be the best of both worlds. in certain circumstances, but it could also be the worst of both worlds as well. So that's the one thing about silver being a monetary and industrial metal. Looking ahead, that's going to be more bullish just as we advance in this new industrial era with the 6 year structural supply deficit, record breaking supply deficits that would only be bullish for silver. But right now, in the immediate term, these types of things would actually hurt the price. So it's worth being precise about what did not happen. Iran produces negligible amount of silver, so neither episode touched mine supply. The entire effect ran through investment demand. Then in July, it reversed quickly. Reports of a possible 10-day truce arrived alongside a softer June inflation reading. The expected rate path eased and silver rebounded 4.9% in a single session on July 21st, which was my birthday, to close the window at 59.17, almost exactly where it began. Interesting to note as well. So just remember, so much of the headlines from this war and what happens is going to affect silver. But the war is not going to last forever. It will eventually settle down, and hopefully sooner than later, things will resolve. Now, whether it's a month from now, a year from now, a couple of years from now, it's going to get resolved and things will settle down. Which, so if this is some of the biggest hindrance on silver going back towards 100, well, at least we know that what it is and that the thing that's doing it is temporary. So what this means to silver investors, the lesson is not that silver failed as a safe haven. The lesson is that the safe haven response is conditional and the conditions are knowable in advance, what I was just saying. Silver tends to benefit from a crisis when two things line up. Money fleeing to safety actually flows into metals, and the crisis pushes interest rate expectations down rather than up. When both hold, silver often outruns gold because it is a much smaller market and the same inflows move it further, which also could be for the worse, also moves it down farther. So the clearest recent example is 2020. When the pandemic hit in March of that year, silver was sold hard alongside everything else, and silver was down to $11 in March of 2020, actually. I was screaming at people to buy silver. $11 in March of 2020. Dang, Slayer, so silver had a horrible year in 2020. Nope, silver was the #1 performing asset in 2020. Out of everything else, out of Bitcoin, out of Tesla stocks, out
The
of
silver
Amazon,
market moves
out of
fast,
everything,
but prices
silver was
move
#1.
even faster.
But Slayer,
Subscribe
it
to
was
Silver Slayer
$11
for
in
daily
March of
updates.
2020. Yeah, and then it shot up to nearly $30 by the end of the year. And that's the example they're using right here. So, and I bet you didn't know that unless you watch my channel, because nobody was talking about it. If it would have been Bitcoin or even gold, there would have been headlines everywhere. Gold's first place. Gold #1 asset in 2020. Why every investor should get in that. Like stuff like that. It was silver though, so I was probably the only channel that talked about it. So anyways, so silver was sold hard alongside everything else. The gold to silver ratio spiked to 127. That's the highest it will probably ever be, ever. Which is crazy. That's a super high price, which also told us that silver was extremely undervalued. So that was liquidation phase, and it looked great. It looked a great deal like this year. What changed was the policy response. Central banks cut rates to near zero and flooded markets with liquidity, and the safe haven money that had been hiding in cash moved into metals. From its March low, silver rallied over 140% by early August. Ratio compressed from 127 to 72. The Silver Institute attributed the move to safe haven demand, inflation fears, very low interest rates, and central bank liquidity. In July 2020 alone, silver gained 34%, its best month since 1979, which of course was the Hunt brothers pushing it to $50. Set that against 2026, and the contrast is direct. 2020, the crisis drove rates to zero, money went into metals. 2026, the crisis ran through oil, so it drove rate expectations up, and the money went into the dollar. Same asset, opposite configuration, opposite outcome. I mean, that's a great way to put it. So The honest summary is that silver has now run the unfavorable configuration twice this year, and in July, it still finished roughly where it started. So, yeah, I think that was a really good article. That's a really good article. And it broke this down brilliantly. They even mentioned like it's not all just the war, but what the war did for the given reasons of the money flowing into the dollar instead of silver, unlike 2020 where it went into metals. That's the difference, and we have data backing it, and even like when the straits closed and when they reopened, what happened, and the different. I mean, it's a great article. I like articles that show proof along with not just a theory or what they're thinking happened. They can show data like, well, look, this is what the data even proves as well. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
The silver market moves fast, but prices move even faster. Subscribe to Silver Slayer for daily updates.